Regardless, the housing bubble kept growing. But just in case it burst, Goldman was prepared. It protected itself by betting against the very mortgage-backed securities that it created and sold to investors in the first place. Goldman had protected itself with an exotic Wall Street invention similar to an insurance policy that enabled it to bet that people here in Cleveland and elsewhere wouldn't pay their mortgages back. It was a complex financial creation with a name only a banker could love: a synthetic collateralized debt obligation, or synthetic CDO. If the value of the mortgages held up, Goldman, like any holder of an insurance policy, would continue to make a steady stream of relatively small payments. But if the mortgage market did collapse, Goldman stood to reap a huge reward.
There's something wrong with the system that allows a firm to package and sell mortgages to their investors that they know are iffy and collecting fees on the front end for packaging these mortgages and then betting against it on the other end. That is wrong, and they did it.
One of those synthetic CDOs that Goldman offered was a deal called Hudson Mezzanine that got the attention of Senator Carl Levin.
The $2 billion Hudson synthetic CDO, a Goldman salesperson described it as junk, not to the buyer, of course, but inside. The CDO imploded within 2 years. Your clients lost. Goldman profited.
Here's how Goldman used its Hudson deal to bet against the mortgages it had sold as investments just months earlier. It started with homes like this at 785 Wayside Road in Cleveland. In 2006, Goldman bought the mortgage on this house, pooled it with others, and created a mortgage-backed security that it offered to customers. This empty lot on Wayside is where that home once stood. It turns out Goldman made 2 deals that included the mortgage for this home in the same year, the mortgage-backed security and the Hudson synthetic CDO. In the first, Goldman offered an investment to customers who expected the mortgages would be paid back. In Hudson, Goldman was wagering its own money that the mortgages would not be paid back. That raises the question, was the bank selling investments it assumed would go bad? Goldman insists it was not. Quote, "We did not choose securities with the belief they would lose value. If investors did not like the underlying securities, they could have chosen not to invest." Craig Broderick heads risk management for Goldman Sachs. The larger takeaway for so many people seems to be that Goldman Sachs knew better than anybody else and gamed the system and knew that the mortgage market was about to collapse and therefore did something that no other firm did.
It might enhance my profile as a risk manager if I were able to sit here and say we had great insight into how the market was going to move.
Goldman officials say the bank lost money investing in residential mortgages. Further proof, they say, that they didn't expect the housing market to collapse.
We nearly knew that the market appeared to have more risk inherent in it than we had understood previously, and therefore the appropriate action was to reduce risk.
To reduce its risk, Goldman turned to those Wall Street concoctions, synthetic CDOs. The reason they're called synthetic is because no mortgages are actually bought or sold. A synthetic CDO is simply a wager, a bet on whether mortgages will be paid back. That means Goldman and other banks could create bets on the same mortgages again and again. Along the way, the bad debt just kept multiplying.
I want a clear path out the door, please. Clear the door.
Whether Goldman gamed the system or not, the widespread belief that it did has led many to question its integrity. Head of Human Resources Edith Cooper defends the bank as committed to its core principles.
We're very focused on not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of that. We pay attention to honesty.
Somebody listening to this conversation who's unaffiliated and doesn't know much about Goldman Sachs except what they read in the newspaper would be like, what is this lady talking about? This is Goldman Sachs. They are not honest. They are not doing the right thing. They're betting against the American dream.
I feel very strongly about the purpose that Goldman Sachs serves and the principal nature of what we do. I also feel very strongly that we aren't perfect We need to communicate more directly about what we do. We know that we are an organization that's based on all of the things that are key to our business principles: honesty, integrity, entrepreneurialism, because if we weren't, we would not have support from our clients. But we don't take any of that for granted. We recognize that we have to earn that every day, and we have a lot of work to do to continue to have that type of loyalty.
Goldman may also have a lot of work to do to revive the trust of another critical constituency: government.
Has the name Goldman Sachs become toxic in Washington, D.C.?
It is right now.
Coming up, a story of public service, money, influence, and high office when Goldman Sachs' Power and Peril continues.